Teal, will you just make sure that it is live?
Yeah. I'm in there now, so I'm just waiting for your post.
All right, so I think it should be live.
1 second.
This is how I always feel with these things.
Sorry, ladies. Yep, we're live now.
Okay, we're live. All right. So welcome everybody. This is our update of the SBA with the SBA. We did this a few weeks ago, and we're welcoming back Dan. Thanks, Dan, for joining us. And he is going to start talking, and then we'll take some questions and have some answers after. All right.
All right. Thanks, Sam. And thanks for everybody who, took some time out of their day to join. We know this is a, gloomy day, but I hope everybody had a good weekend. And, if you celebrate Easter, I hope you had a good Easter. It was an awesome day. And, we were just talking earlier about, at least being able to step outside on our porches and enjoy the sun for a little bit. But I just want to give you guys, just some updates as far as the programs go that the SBA is dealing with and running, as far as the economic injury disaster loans, the paycheck protection program, and then just some of the other not as well-known programs that are running behind the scenes and are still gaining some traction, and we're waiting for some guidance on. But it's good to to have that information now rather than maybe a week or so from now when guidance is out. So let me just switch the slides here. So as far as the programs right now, so just remember, with the Small Business Administration, we're on the federal level. So we're not doing state programs. We're not involved in unemployment or things like that on the state level. So all of our programs are through the federal side of the house. So right now, most popular probably within the news is your Paycheck Protection Program. We have, a lot of news on that, a lot of my job as part of a lender relations specialist is working with the various lending teams throughout the state. And, there was, a lot of, hiccups along the way these last weeks when it comes to processing these loans. It seems like a lot of our lending partners are now starting to get comfortable. There's still some guidance on the back end of the process when it comes to closings and discussion on how the borrower needs to provide financial data when it comes to the forgiveness part of the loan. But as far as funding these loans, I think a good portion of our lending partners have a solid idea and a solid framework on how they're going to get the funds out to everybody now. So that's good news. And then as far as the economic injury disaster loans, there's a lot of talk on the news and different media outlets as well. Unfortunately, at the Massachusetts district office, we don't actually have access to those loans, so we can't check statuses and things like that. So a lot of our information we get through people who email us questions or answers that they find from the actual disaster customer service center. So but I'll talk about some things with that. Then also the SBA Express Bridge loans, and then anybody listening in or tuning in that actually has an SBA loan, there's going to be debt relief on current SBA loans, whether that's through our 7A program, 504 program, or a micro lending program. So that's some good things that are coming in the works, and they're still providing guidance to our lending partners on that as well. So we'll start off first with the first program that came out, which was the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. So this has had a lot of transformations over the last few weeks, as far as the application process itself, from when it first started, several weeks back, it was a long process online. The system kept crashing. It would ask you for a lot of supporting documentation. Now the process is streamlined. It's only a few pages as far as the application goes. There's still a lot of question on how much money will I receive. At the Massachusetts office, the one thing we do get is we get an Excel of Excel spreadsheet on a daily basis on what loans under this program have been approved. So we are seeing, and I know there's a lot of talk on, loans only being done up to 10,000 or 15,000, and they've changed things. I don't think that's across the board from what I'm seeing. They may be looking at each loan as a case by case, and some borrowers may be getting smaller amounts than others. We have seen loan approvals plenty of times over the last few weeks, loan approvals up to $500,000, $600,000, 100,000, 50,000, all different various amounts. So we are seeing that. We're not seeing a huge volume of loans being approved here in the state of Massachusetts. I would say on a daily basis, it's anywhere between 5 and 15 approved applications, where realistically, there's thousands and thousands that have applied. There is an extensive backlog from what I know, on this program. So that might be the reason for delay. I know there was a lot of talk on funds being issued out within a short time frame, whether that was 3 business days or 4 business days, wherever people were hearing that on the news or through different political outlets. Realistically, we've been telling everybody in the office that you're probably looking at a 3 to 4 week time frame as far as the decision goes on this. Realistically, just with the sheer volume that the disaster center is receiving, we're talking 50 states and all the small businesses across the 50 states applying. Typically, these disaster loans or the disaster center is only dealing with maybe a hurricane or a tornado that maybe happened in one state or only affected a few counties, and they're dealing with loan requests from that particular area. Now they're taking on a volume of 50 states. This is a nationwide problem. So what typically might take a week for them to answer is really understandable. Realistically, a 3 to 4 week time frame is more what you're going to see across the board, and that's what we're seeing here in Massachusetts as far as approvals from the Excel, that the data that we've been able to collect. One thing to note, though, they have opened up this program to other business entities that wasn't originally on the list. I think from the last time I had this conversation, faith-based organizations and houses of worship were not eligible. They've opened that up recently. So they are trying to transition this program as much as possible. But again, I don't, it's hard for not to be the bearer of bad news, but at the same time, I want to give everybody more of a realistic outlook when it comes to financing and these programs. These are, there's a lot of dollars going out the door in a very short period of time. I would always caution that any small business that's applying for either this or the PPP program, that there may be a wait. Things aren't going to happen in a few business days. I know that's advertised, but internally in the SBA, we're not really advertising it like that. But I won't go too much into the detail of the economic injury disaster, because I think we should get more to the payment protection program, because that's probably more questions right now, as that is up and running for the last 10 days. So let me skip through it, because as far as the economic disaster loans too, the qualifications, the interest rates, the amounts that you can get up to, none of that has changed. Interest rates are still at 3.75%. Loans can range up to $2 million. If you're a nonprofit organization, the interest rate is still at 2.75. The terms haven't changed, still at 30 years that they'll offer. The use of proceeds are exactly the same from our last conversation. So, it's utilized to pay fixed debts. You can utilize this for payroll, but you want to be careful with that if you're applying with the PPP program as well. Accounts payable and other bills, had the disaster not occurred. So these are not for loans designed to help you with expansion or to replace any loss of sales or profits. So this is just a screenshot of the streamlined process. Again, if you haven't applied for this yet, and you've heard the process maybe 3 weeks ago and all the documentation you needed, just disregard that at this point. It's about a 2-page application. It probably only takes about 5 to 10 minutes to submit. But at this point, it's the wait time that everybody has to be concerned with. So I'm saying 3 to 4 weeks. As it goes on, it could take longer because more applications are coming in by the day. And as far as checking the status, like I said before, the Massachusetts office, we do not have actual access to the disaster loan center system. So, not typically we can look up our normal loan programs, whether it's 7A, 504 loans, our micro loan programs, but we do not have access to anything under the idle loans. So you would have to call this 800 number here on the slide, or email the disaster customer service center at SBA.gov if you want to find out the status. From what I heard, they are working on a new online database, so you can submit your enter in your loan number and check on the status. I don't have an ETA right now of when that's going to be up and running, but hopefully soon. And as soon as I find out, I will shoot that out to everybody to let you guys know. Oh, sorry, got off my screen here. Sorry, I'm getting emails as they roll in and it keeps popping up on my screen. So as far as the Paycheck Protection Program is going, so the big difference between this program and the EIDL program is the EIDL, you are applying directly through the SBA. The Paycheck Protection Program, you are applying through an SBA lender. So, you just want to keep that in mind. The EIDL, you do not go to a lending institution to apply for. Paycheck Protection Program is a must. We do not accept applications at our office. There's no center for applications. You can't submit it down in DC. It has to go through a local lender. The majority of banks and other financial institutions are taking part in this program. I would say, across the state of Massachusetts, you're probably looking at upwards of 90% of local financial institutions are taking part in this program. Right now, from what we know, there is, again, with this program, very large volume of applicants throughout the state. So it may take some time, depending on the lender you're dealing with, to get that application process. It's just, the simple fact is you might have a small credit union. They only have X amount of employees that can process these applications through our system. So they can only take so many applications at one time. So, just try to work as best as you can with your local lending partner. Another question that comes up a lot is, do I have to utilize the bank that I already do business with? The answer is no, you do not have to. You can go to any SBA lender that is offering this program and fill out an application. With that said, there may be banks that are right now just trying to get through their backlog of their current customers. So you have to, contact that bank and find that out. And depending on the situation, it may be different from lender to lender. So you just have to, at this point, ask the questions. But I got to say, our lenders throughout the state, they are working night and day to try to get these applications processed. There's a lot of, when we were given the guidance on this, it was given to us about an hour or so after the president went on to his in his press conference with our administrator the day before the program was rolling out. So realistically, our lending partners were not given a lot of time to try to figure out how to process these loans. So we sent that out to them as soon as we got it. So they more than likely Thursday night before last Friday, they got it around 7 o'clock. So it gave less than 24 hours to even review the guidance. With that said, the interim final rule on this program, the guidance can be vague, and it's a lot different than what our normal lending partners are used to. So when it comes to this loan, a couple things you want to note is, as a borrower, you're not providing personal guarantees. You're not going to be asked about available collateral. So all, those things are not typical of SBA lending. So our SBA lending partners, especially the ones that are heavily used SBA programs, there was a lot of questions around that because you know, they're used to looking at everything, verifying taxes and you know, all sorts of stuff like that. And under this program, it's pretty much relaxed. What you do want to know as a borrower, though, the onus on you to provide correct financial data when it comes to the calculation of this program to define how much funds you should receive. The onus is on you as the borrower because the lender is really not having the opportunity to check anything other than basic calculations, um, and you know, just making sure the calculations were done correctly. It's really on you, and you as the borrower are certifying that all the pieces of information that you're supplying your local lender is correct. Again, you know, they're not collecting personal guarantees and putting liens on different pieces of collateral to secure the loan. So you want to keep that in mind, that you know, this is going to be on you, the borrower, to make sure that the information is correct. So try to, you know, work with your lender as best as they can, because they don't have a lot of information to go on that they typically would. Another thing with these loans, you know, these are short-term loans when you know, in the grand scheme of things. So the maturity date on these are 2 years maximum. The interest rate is at 1%. With that said, the idea of these loans is to be fully forgivable if you utilize them for the correct purpose. Okay, so the correct purpose meaning the majority of the funds should be utilized for payroll costs. So, you know, I wrote here on this slide, if everybody can see it, is the loan will be fully forgiven if the funds are used for payroll costs, interest on mortgages, rent, and utilities. At least 75% of the forgiven amount must have been used for payroll. So that's a key, making sure that you utilize that to for your payroll expenses for your business. So how are you gonna, you know, define what your payroll is? So when the basic calculation, how it's gonna work is you're gonna average out your last year of our payroll. You're gonna, you know, you're basically gonna look at your staff, see how much that is, provide a average monthly salary that you have, times it by 2.5, and that's where you're going to end up getting your figure for how much funds the lender will be looking to provide you under this loan program. So we're still waiting on guidance on what information you will need to supply the lender once you're looking for forgiveness on this loan. So keep in mind, keeping track of every dollar that you spend under this program is highly, highly important, because again, it's going to be on you to track that information, not on the lender. So it's up to you to prove that you utilize the funds properly. So I want to go back to one thing when it comes to the idle loans. That is, you know, there was a lot of question, well, can I apply for both loans? Can I have both programs? Yes, you can have both programs. However, you know, I would highly suggest, if you do have the idle funds, or you're going to apply for the idle, that you utilize that program for expenses outside of payroll, and then just utilize the Paycheck Protection Program for payroll purposes. Um, you know, if you've already gotten idle funds, you may have to refinance whatever you use for payroll into the Paycheck Protection Program and notify your lender that you have utilized the idle program for payroll. So just, you know, just keep that in mind. Try to separate them, because the real intention of the Paycheck Protection Program is to bring your employees back to work. You know, I know there's a lot of questions when it comes to, well, we got to get, you know, fully staffed by certain time frames. You know, the state, you know, every state's different when it comes to um, you know, when they can reopen, and depending on the city and town, it's even broken down you know, that way too. So that's different for everybody. You know, right now, the way the program is if you get the funds today, they're going to be expecting you to use that money, you know, from the time you get that fund. So during that 8-week period. So, you know, just keep that, you know, in mind. You know, a couple of things to note with this program: there are plenty of banks right now issuing funds as we speak. Right before I got on this webinar, I just got off the phone with a local bank, and it was a small institution, and they were issuing out several funds today to different businesses, and they had one loan for over $1 million. They had one loan as small as $10,000. So, you know, this program, you can actually, it goes up to $10 million. So obviously that would probably be based on the amount of employees you have and salary you have. So that would be probably on the higher end for most larger small businesses. But the amounts are ranging, and they're giving out funds. If you're on LinkedIn and different social media and you're connected with local lenders, you know, there's been plenty of local lenders that have posted their first checks or funds that they've issued out to some small businesses in the area. So this program is getting dollars in the pocket of the small business borrower right now as we speak. So like I said, it's been a process throughout the last 10 days with our lending partners to no fault of their own. There's just a lot of questions. It's a totally new program. It's $350 billion that nationwide we're trying to get out the door into the small business community, and it just doesn't happen overnight. You know, our lenders need confidence to know what they're doing and they want to make sure that they're doing it right for you, the small business community. They don't want to, you know, input anything wrong that's going to hurt you at the end of the day. So they had plenty of questions. We have some answers we're still waiting for. So, you know, I just just want to, you know, say, please, you know, just try to work with your local lender. You know, they will definitely help you out as soon as possible, but they do have a large backlog at most institutions right now. So we'll open it up for questions on that, because I'm sure there's going to be questions. I'll go through the other programs just so we have it up here and we can go into questions on the PPP. So as far as the one other program that I don't think a lot of institutions know right now is or a lot of small businesses don't know right now is the SBA Express Bridge Loans. This one program, the only way you can utilize this is you have to actually make sure that your lender has an express authority with the SBA. So that's a separate agreement that they have with the SBA. So not every lender is going to have that. And you can only work with the lender that you actually have a business relationship with under this program. The intention of this program was to provide gap financing while you're waiting for the EIDL funds to come in. However, with this program itself, we cannot force our lending partners to take part in it. So it's really up to them whether they want to provide this to you or not. They actually would be underwriting this loan utilizing their own policies and procedures. These loans go up to $25,000. And as you can see here, like on the terms, you know, it should be repaid in full or in part, but with the proceeds of the EIDL loan. So that's the intention. But again, I haven't seen too many approvals since this came out a few weeks back. So it's going to vary from institution whether they want to utilize this program. You know, it's a good option, but again, the SBA is not a policing force and enforcement agency. So, you know, it's basically up to the individual lender if they have express authority to provide this. So if you are interested in it, ask your local lender, see if that's an option for you as well. And then one other thing, if anybody on here actually has an SBA loan, a current SBA loan right now, so what's happening behind the scenes is the SBA is writing guidance as we speak to help the lenders and the small businesses. They're gonna be picking up payments on your current SBA loan. So they're looking to actually pick up 6 months worth of payments on your current SBA loans, whether that's under the 7A program, the 504 program, or our microloan program. Right now, we're still waiting on how do the banks send all of that information on the individual loans to the SBA so that the SBA makes those payments. But that is something that is being worked on as we speak. So if you have an SBA loan, definitely talk to the lender that you have that with. And as soon as we get updates on how they're supposed to send that information off to us, I'm sure they're going to be letting you know, because that's going to be another benefit to give you some additional debt relief while we're dealing with this pandemic. And then as far as information, I know there's a ton of information out there. A lot of people are putting out articles, and whether you go on LinkedIn, whether you're on Facebook, or whatever the case may be. um, there's some truth to some articles, some don't give you the full background. So you got to be careful with what you read, because there's not a lot of context behind a lot of articles that are out there. So if you really want to know the most up-to-date information, I provided the websites and the links on here. If you go to sba.gov, go to our funding relief options. Highly recommend using the U.S. Treasury. They're actually the first ones to be putting out all information. So they have a question and answer section that they're updating on a daily basis, whether that's questions that lenders have had, whether it's questions small business applicants have had. They've been posting that, updating that FAQ on a daily basis. They have the updated applications and just other term sheets that you can find out information on the PPP program. And then as far as local information, highly suggest utilizing our SBA's Massachusetts district office website. We actually have a sign up for an e-blast that we send out. We've been typically sending out an email probably every week to 2 weeks right now. We typically do it on a monthly basis, but where there's more information coming out, our office is trying to get that out to the small business community. So if you're not already signed up for our e-blast, please go to our district office website and get yourself added on there, because any sort of new relevant information that will help you as a small business, or concern you as a small business, we can shoot it out from there. And then if we want to just open it up for questions, because I'm sure a lot of people, hopefully I got some answers, but.
Dan, Tia, do you want to ask the questions that we have so far? I think she's coming off mute, so just wait 1 second.
Sorry, everybody. So one of the questions that we had was, I reached out to my local bank, and they are only providing PPE loans. Is there a good resource list of lenders? And I wanted to add to that. I'm pretty sure, and Dan, can you confirm, does the Lynn Economic Development also provide loans for this, for a small business?
So the Lynn EDIC, they're a micro lender of ours. Right now, I don't think any of our micro lenders can provide the PPP loans. However, I'll double check, because I know they're trying to get more and more lenders to be a part of this program. So what's been going on is there are a lot of smaller institutions throughout the state that didn't have SBA agreements prior. And so the SBA itself came up with a separate agreement for any bank that just wants to provide the PPP program. So I think from the last 10 days, we've had about 20 or so new SBA lenders approved for the PPP program itself. We are going to be posting that on our website, I think today. So if we do, I'll shoot that out in an email to you. So you have that. It will be like on an Excel, different local lending institutions. I would say too, if you're locally in the Lynn area, the greater Lynn area, there are a lot of institutions. I don't know too many institutions that aren't involving themselves in this program. I would say 9 out of 10 lending institutions are involving themselves into this program. Right now, they're just, there's a lot of applications in right now over the last 10 days. So it may just take some time, so just try to work with your local lender to see if you can get yourself in the queue, at least get your application in with them. I don't want to speak for them and say they can turn around that application in a day or so, because, depending on the institution, we've seen, thousands, still waiting to be processed at certain institutions. It's just everybody is applying right now. And it makes sense, because I know the media is talking about, well, there's only so much money in the pot, and you got to, it's first come, first serve. So I think, that creates a lot of panic, unfortunately. Right now, I can tell you, I think most recent numbers, I think we're close to 6 billion in loans being processed here in Massachusetts. close to 13,000 applications. And I think several thousand that still need to be processed. So that's a lot, in the grand scheme of things. The SBA in Massachusetts, with all of our programs combined, typically with our lending partners, we process about 3,000, 3,500 loans on average. So within the last 10 days, there's been 12 to 13,000 loans being submitted already. So it kind of just give you that. There's a lot coming through.
And the next question is, if you have a PPL loan and you bring your employees back in off unemployment but can't reopen because of social distancing, what would the best option be to pay the payroll for the 8 weeks and then lay the employees off if unable to open again?
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you as far as advise you if you should lay the employees off, but yeah, the intention is to bring them on. So we actually had a staff meeting earlier today, and that was kind of a hot topic, with our staff, and our district director Bob Nelson. You know, he said, the funds should be utilized, to bring your staff back, whether you can open or not. I mean, if they can do things behind the scenes, it's not open to, you have to physically be at the location. If there are ways for them to do work with teleworking, or if there's other things that they can do that maybe they're typically not assigned, those are all those outside the box ways of, maybe trying to help your business get to ready to reopen when the time comes. But as far as, after that 8 weeks is up, if you still can't open, what you should do, if you should lay them off again, I can't really advise you on that. But you can certainly use the funds to rehire them during the time and have them do whatever they can, at the time.
And there was just some questions about how to follow up with the loans. I think you had answered that, but if I can just confirm, we have a 1-800 number that you can call, as well as an email address. And that's the best way for now. And eventually there'll be an online platform that you can check in with.
Yeah, so that's for the idle loans. For the PPP, you'd have to call your institution, because they're the ones that submit the loan. They're the ones that will schedule the closing, for you. But like I said, depending on, the institution you're working with, they are working with a lot of loans. They're trying to get these closings done as fast as possible. I know banks have already, most lenders now have already started funding on these loans. I've talked to several today that have closings all throughout the day. A lot of them are doing these closings electronically, obviously. So, they are funding as we speak. There were several banks that started funding last week, so they're starting that process. There was a lot of questions when it came to the closing process, because um, on the guidance that we were originally given, it talked about, the calculations and processing the loan, but it really didn't. The interim rule doesn't give much information, if anybody's actually read it, on how to close the loans. So there was a ton of questions on that. So the SBA and the Treasury has put out some information in the FAQ for lenders as far as what they need to close. So most lenders now know that they need a few documents to close, and there will be some things handled in the back end at a later time when we receive official guidance. So they will, if you've already submitted an application, you're probably going to be hearing from your local lender fairly quickly on setting up, a closing date, or having them sent, forward you the closing docs.
I have another question here. For the EIDL application, in August, we reconstructed from a sole proprietorship to an S Corp. How does that affect how we report expenses? I don't want my application to be rejected on a technicality and there's no guidance.
Yeah, that's a good question. It won't be rejected. The typical, from what I've seen as far as of applicants not getting approved, it's been predominantly credit issues and really, really, really low credit scores. I haven't heard of anybody, because they switched their ownership, type or category over the course of the last 12 months being rejected. They may, what will happen is your loan may take a little bit longer to process because one of the credit analysts or case managers may have to reach out to you for additional supporting documentation. So those loans, they are looking at them case by case. So, I would expect that there's going to be someone on the disaster team that may end up reaching out for you to find out additional documentation, because depending on when you applied it, like if you applied this week, that may not be fully clear based on how the application is read right now.
All right, and we just have someone that wants to confirm the EIDL and 10K grant monies are 3 to 4 weeks out, is what you're looking at.
Yeah, so I don't know about the advance. So just one thing with the advance, it's up to 10,000. I think a lot of media outlets, they automatically put out it's a 10K grant, and they left off what the words are on the application, which is up to 10,000. So that does not mean every person who applies will receive $10,000. So they're looking at those on a case by case basis. I know sometimes when people are spitting in these applications, those little words, the fine print, people, can easily, not see those. And especially when you're reading articles, depending on the headline, I'm sure that's not on most articles. So, just keep that in mind. I know that a lot of people on the Hill were advertising, three business days, and that was well over a week ago. And we're not seeing a lot of the advances being in the small businesses pockets 3 business days later. It's been about 7 or 8 business days since that was stated. So clearly that's not the case at this point. So, I'm more, I know I can, when it comes to telling people the process, I'd rather tell everybody this is what we're seeing, instead of saying, hey, yeah, let's wait 3 business days, when everybody that's probably listening in right now knows it's been well over 3 business days. So, I would stick with the whole program, at least 3 to 4 weeks.
That's all we have for questions, Dan. I want to thank you very much.
Oh, wow, that's easy today. You get a lot easier than last time.
Thank you so much for meeting with us. I appreciate it.
All right. Have a good day, ladies. Bye, everybody.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Dan.
Bye.